Hello, welcome to this module on aesthetics. In this module, we will be learning about a great thinker and philosopher, Plato. We will begin by looking at a fresco at the Apostolic Palace in Vatican. This painting, The School of Athens, is a masterpiece by the Italian Renaissance artist Raphael. It was painted between 1510 and 1511. Why I am showing this picture to you now? It is because Raphael has portrayed most of the important Greek philosophers within this picture. We can find Plato and his disciple Aristotle standing at the center of the painting. They can be identified easily by the title painted on the books they are holding. Plato holds Timaeus and Aristotle the Nicomachean Ethics. The statues of Apollo and Minerva are found on either side of the fresco on painted niches. Apollo was the patron god of poetry and fine arts, and Minerva that of reason. Socrates is shown along with the emperor Alexander. They can be seen standing on the right side of the picture. Though Raphael has painted Socrates near Alexander, it was Plato who was a direct disciple of Socrates. He in turn tutored Aristotle and Aristotle tutored Alexander. Plato is also credited with the establishment of the first known university, the Academy, circa 387 BC in Athens. Plato developed a dialectical method, the pursuit of truth through questions, answers, and additional questions. The dialectical process is a dialogue between two or more people holding different points of view about a subject. They try to arrive at the truth of the matter using reasoned arguments. This dialectical method was developed before Plato by Socrates, and Plato enhanced it. To credit Socrates, Plato has used Socrates as a character in his books. Plato's major books like Symposium, Republic, Phaedrus, and Ion are written in the form of dialogue. For an artist, the study of arguments put forward in Republic and Ion are significant. In these dialogues, Plato made Socrates, one of the characters, emphasize the idea that artists should not be allowed to live and work inside an ideal republic. But the common perception that Plato considered artists as inferior beings is not totally true. He wanted to banish artists and poets from an ideal republic because he considered artists to be divinely possessed. They do not know exactly what they are doing. They are overwhelmed by the powers of poetry and creativity, so they are devoid of the power of reason. They won't make good models for the young people of society and may corrupt the youngsters by being bad role models. Plato asked other philosophers to suggest how an artist can play a positive moral role in the society. Ironically, it was his student Aristotle who suggested it. We will learn more about this when we elaborate on Aristotle. Plato wanted sculptures or paintings that depicted things in their worst moments rather than in their ideal forms, and music that would predispose people to lower emotions such as anger and lust should be banished. Plato writes, "If poets are not able to clearly justify inspiration, not knowing how or what they create, they are to be suspect because poetry evokes powerful emotions." Theory of mimesis is central to the philosophy of Plato. It is in Cratylus that he elaborates upon the concept of mimesis, which in Greek may mean imitation, representation, and dramatic enactment. Plato also holds the view that art is representative and thus mimetic. According to him, art tries to imitate and copy from life. This idea about art in particular may have originated in him from seeing the naturalistic images created by the artists of his time. There is an old Greek tale from Plato's time which narrates the incident of a bird pecking at a painted fruit, thinking it to be real. Plato wrote in Republic, "Painting and the whole art of imitation is busy about a work which is far removed from the truth, and is its mistress and friend for no wholesome or true purpose. It is the worthless mistress of a worthless friend, and the parent of a worthless progeny." In the Phaedrus, Plato states through his character Socrates that some of life's greatest blessings flow from madness, and he clarifies this later by noting that he is referring specifically to madness inspired by the gods. Plato considered our world to be only a representation. The form of anything in this world has the idea of it existing somewhere else, perhaps in another world. So, we can visualize a Platonic realm where pure ideas exist. The world of representation in which we live is a secondary manifestation of these ideas. For instance, an apple has its idea existing before its appearance. This is a difficult concept. So, let us take the example of a man-made object, a chair. Before a chair is made by a carpenter, he must have had a solid idea of it. This idea is not created by a carpenter. The idea of the chair existed for all. The carpenter was only just copying the idea into material. Thus, when an artist draws or paints the chair, he is making a copy from another copy. Thus, an artist's work stays twice removed from the real. Plato uses the Greek word eidos, and it is often translated as idea or essence. Plato argued that artists should try to make their images closer to the ideal form than its imperfect physical manifestation in real world. Classical Greek and Roman sculptures are examples of practical application of this concept. Artists who made these sculptures took beautifully proportioned parts from various figures and assembled them in their artwork to get closer to an ideally proportioned human form. They were trying to transcend the archetypal form of the idea of humanness. The perfect geometrical structure on which classical and Renaissance paintings were composed was also thought to be closer to the idea of the beautiful and good. So, according to Plato, art should imitate the ideal realm in order to serve as a tool to connect the physical world to the ideal plane and remind the soul of its true nature through symmetry and proportion. Poetry and drama should demonstrate moral virtues and goodness superior to that found in the physical world, which is corrupted by lower passions. In ancient Greek culture, not much differentiation was given between art and craft. Artists were treated like skilled craftsmen. The Greek word for art and craft was techne. But Plato seems to have understood the difference between pure art and craft. He states, "To have mastered the tools of an art is not to have mastered the art itself, but only its preliminaries. To practice the art, one must have a grasp of the truth and a detailed understanding of the soul in order to properly persuade. One must also have an idea of what is good or bad for the soul." He also differentiates between beauty in the arts and moral goodness. A beautiful work of art need not be good because of the passions expressed through it may set a bad impact on social life. This world itself is compared by Plato to a cave. The inhabitants of the cave only see shadows on the walls of the cave. Sunlight comes through a small opening because the inhabitants do not have the experience of outside world. They think that shadows are real and the only truth is that of the shadows. They are unaware of the real nature of the outside world. the Platonic world of pure forms is analogous to Plato's cave. Plato tried to find a method to transcend the purity of pure forms to our world. He studied mathematics, especially geometry, to be able to represent the pure form. Let us look into some of the purest possible geometrical forms suggested by Plato. The triangle was thought by Plato to be the building block of the universe. He thought that the universe is created following a geometric progression. He proposes this thesis in one of his books, the Timaeus. In this book, Plato describes how triangles make up 5 pure solids, now known as Platonic solids. Plato believed these solids make up the 4 elements and heaven. A polygon is next in complexity to triangle. The polygons are called faces. The intersection of faces create edges. The points where 3 or more edges intersect are called vertices. Contemporary visual artists and designers are familiar with these terms through their application in modern computer graphics. Then comes the polyhedron. It is a solid bounded by plane polygons. A regular polyhedron is one whose faces are identical regular polygons, that is, they have every face identical. It is possible to construct only 5 regular solids following these rules of perfection. They are a cube, tetrahedron, octahedron, icosahedron and dodecahedron. These are known as Platonic solids. We will look at some illustrations of these by Leonardo da Vinci for the 16th century book The Divine Proportion by Renaissance mathematician Luca Pacioli. Another artwork of significance in our present context is a block of fat on a chair by Joseph Beuys, a German postmodern artist. Joseph Beuys placed a big piece of fat on a chair, which melts as time passes by. To understand why he has placed a piece of fat, we first have to analyze his personal life history. He was a pilot in the German armed force. His plane crashed on an island where only aboriginals lived. Severely wounded by the crash of the bomber plane, he was tenderly cared by the primitives. They covered him with animal fat, which protected him from death and rejuvenated him. This incident posed questions on progress of civilization in his mind, and he became more aware of nature and environment. His later works all refer to the destruction human species impose upon nature. The fat placed on the chair becomes more than the remembrance of a personal incident. It is a statement on the existence of human and his will to power in time. The transient obese body sits on the chair, which is a symbol of power. To Beuys, fat is a material, and material should be considered before any question of form was considered. Also, fat as a form is a composite with no internal structure. It is also to be remembered that Plato thinks the highest form to be that of goodness. It is the first cause of being and knowledge. Sense perception can never give us true knowledge. True knowledge can be obtained only by the soul's activity within itself by the exercise of reason. The process of dialectic reasoning will make known to us the knowledge of the ideas and the highest idea of the good. Joseph Beuys takes the personal experience of encounter with the aboriginals to counter the Platonian idea of dialectic reason and make it go closer towards goodness within pure nature, which is beyond dry logical reasoning. Let us also see a fairy tale from another realm of art, a film by Norman McLaren. The Canadian filmmaker and artist has created the film Fairy Tales through the method of pixelation. Pixelation is a method of animation where a static object is manually moved between frames and then shooted frame by frame. The narrative tells the story of a chair that is tired of allowing its owner to sit upon it. It stops allowing the master to sit upon it and declare its defiance. It realizes that it has an existence of its own. It is not there to serve the master. It asserts its existence by making its master act as a chair, that is its own image, and sits upon him. Then it allows itself to be used as a chair again. I will show you some more works before we conclude this session. I will only introduce and explain, and will leave the interpretation of the works up to you. You will have to try and understand the works in relation not only to the philosophy of Plato, but also to the context of contemporary art practice. Bicycle Wheel by Marcel Duchamp is among the first sculptures which used found objects. Marcel Duchamp was a champion of Dadaism. Duchamp says about this work as follows: in 1913, I had the happy idea to fasten a bicycle wheel to a kitchen stool and watch it turn. When I put a bicycle wheel on a stool, the fork down, there was no idea of a ready-made or anything else. It was just a distraction. I didn't have any special reason to do it, or any intention of showing it, or describing anything. No, nothing like that. Ponder upon this statement by giving special importance to the word idea and reason and ready-made in context of Plato's theory. This is Pilgrim by Robert Rauschenberg in 1960s. This work is The Wrapped Chair by Christo, done in 1961. Shirt with Objects on a Chair by Klaus Oldenburg was created in 1962. This is Another Chair by Alan Jones in 1969. This is the work Shit on Your Hat, Head on a Chair by Bruce Newman, 1990. This is a video installation. We are seeing another work titled Formulation by Tony Craig in 2000. Now it is time we conclude this module. Till our next class, bye. Thank you.